Bridget and Ernest, it's such a pleasure to meet the both of you. I'm sad it's so soon in this season, but it's nice to meet the both of you.
So
Thank you.
nice to meet
Nice to
you.
meet you also.
I loved watching your season of The Amazing Race, so it's really
Thank-
exciting to talk to you.
Oh my God.
Bittersweet because it's a little too soon, but happy to be here.
I cannot agree more. Way too soon. You guys had such a great start to the race. But before we recap, I want to go back to what really inspired you to apply for the race. And have you always been fans? And how many times did you apply?
Yeah, so growing up, I always watched The Amazing Race with my dad, my mom, and my sister, and we just loved watching the show every week, and would kind of have family debates on who we thought would do the best on the show. And just due to my dad, growing up with my dad as my coach, and being in some weird, unprecedented travel experiences with my family, and my dad having to drive in Jamaica, and me being the only person that could like stay calm in the passenger seat, we just decided that we should give it a shot. So last year, my dad texted me and was like, let's just apply. So we filmed an audition tape, and I hit submit before he could think twice about it. And then here we are.
Here we
Ernest,
go.
did you ever in your wildest dreams think this would actually come to fruition?
No.
I appreciate the honesty.
No, I did not.
So when you got the initial phone call, what was going through your head?
My head is like, are we really gonna do this? Are we really doing this?
Found out the news and called my dad, and he was just in shock.
All right, love it. How did the two of you prepare and start getting ready to go on this amazing adventure together?
First things first, when we started packing our backpacks, I saw how much stuff my dad was putting in his backpacks. Let's go on a 1 mile run with our backpacks on so that we could take some stuff out of our backpacks. But we were so ready for any physical challenges. Like we've run marathons, we've done triathlons, we were ready for the physical. What we weren't ready for was drumsticks.
Okay, since we're segueing to the episode last night, you two started off very strong. I mean, even in last week's episode and starting last night's leg, you guys were on the first flight, and then you get to the intersection with Brett and Mark. So you guys were kind of leading the pack. What was going through your head at that point?
We still believe that we were in third place. We didn't realize that we were in first. Our mind was already set that the first and second place team already made a decision. They were probably on their way. So we were sitting there waiting for the other teams to show, and they were like, wait a minute, we're in first place. So at that point, I felt pretty good where we were sitting. Then we had to make a decision on who was going to be on whose team.
Right.
That's when we teamed up with Mark and Brett, and then we were on our way.
So was there an agreement that was made? Because if I'm not mistaken, I felt like when Carson and Jack walked up, Mark kind of said, like, we agreed that whatever the first two teams were, that's kind of who would join up. Was that actually like something you guys discussed?
Yes,
Yeah, so
yes.
we were on that first flight with Carson and Jack, Brett and Mark, and we got to really bond like as a group of three teams.
Right.
We got really close with them on that experience, and we were kind of playing around. We were like, "What is this next surprise going to be?" We were trying to figure out because Phil obviously said at the beginning, "This is a season of surprises." So we were just
Right.
throwing around ideas of what it could be, and the thought of an intersection came up. We were like, crap, we're an odd number of teams, and so we were trying to figure out the most fair way to do this, knowing we were a group of three teams. And we just decided like the first two teams were going to go, and there were going to be no hard feelings. So that what my dad said, we thought we were in third. We didn't know we were in first. We were totally fine. We're like, go, good for them. Hope they're like doing well. And we were just mentally prepared to wait for the next team to show up after their flight landed. And when we saw Brett and Mark walk up, we were like, no way. But then we also saw Jack and Carson. I was fully ready to just let them go, but
Yeah.
the fact that they honored the agreement that we made was amazing.
Yeah, I think it's actually incredible. It goes to show how much fans the three of your teams were that you would even kind of forward think what could potentially be the surprise on this leg. And that discussion of an intersection, smart and brilliant on all of your team's part. Going into the actual roadblock itself, Bridget, what was going through your head watching Mark and your dad do this together?
I was so stressed, but not because of my dad. I knew he wasn't going to give up. I was so proud of him for just keeping it going.
Right.
The stressful part was sitting down there with Brett, and having another team kind of being dependent on you, that adds a whole nother level of stress. I think I was so appreciative of how calm Brett was and reassuring Brett was next to me while there was nothing that we could do. And like we were both just kind of in it together. But also just seeing Mark and my dad stay positive and strong. But yeah, I mean, it is stressful. One, there's nothing that I can do. It's not like I can tap him out and do that challenge instead. And two, the added layer of another team potentially being impacted by it was really tough.
Well, you eventually got it on your 17th attempt, and I give you all the props, Ernest, because you never gave up. And there have been so many teams on The Amazing Race that after like the third attempt would probably have thrown in the towel or complained, and you persevered. So hats off to you. I do want to give you your props. Once you were done and you got the clue, how far behind do you think you were from the other teams at this point?
I thought at that point we were probably just about out of it, and my focus was let's get to it because
Right.
I we were just so far behind. I didn't think that we were as close as that. I didn't think we would catch up as fast as much as we did.
Yeah, so when you chose the Mawashi detour. First off, how did you even decide between, like, what was your thought process between deciding Mawashi over Mochi?
I think in the mochi clue, it said something about a limited number of spots,
Mm,
and we didn't know how many people had already done that one. So we
right.
just kind of played it safe. Also, it kind of sounded like the Mawashi one was easier, sounded like it. So when we got there and we saw that there were still so many teams doing it, we were just so hyped to have
Right.
up to those other
Yeah.
teams
New
that
life. New life is like
real life, we
reinvigorating.
were just so excited. We just wanted to like get started. Hindsight 2020, watching back last night, it's just tough because I wish there was a moment where like, wait, the fact that we just caught up to all these other teams and they're still struggling with this challenge, like maybe we should do the other one. There is a part of me that wishes we would have done Mochi.
What do you think was the hardest part about Mawashi? Because clearly every team struggled. Was there like a little detail that every team kind of missed or skimmed over?
It was very detail oriented.
Mhm.
You had to be exact. They did a really good job of checking some of the smaller things that we're missing because at one point initially we thought we had it, but
Mhm.
we didn't have it.
It was so intricate. When I saw that we were just supposed to wrap like a diaper on other, I was like, okay, we got like, why are they struggling with this? This will be so easy. And I kind of wanted to just jump right in. My dad was the one that was like, we got to keep watching the tutorial. But I was like, how hard could it be? And it was really hard.
It looked so difficult. So fast forward to the pit stop. I think one of the most touching moments was actually at the pit stop when you both reflected on just what this race meant to you and your relationship. Ernest, you spoke so highly of Bridget and her leadership. What was it like kind of seeing her in this new light on the race?
It was a very special moment to me, and it just made me realize where my successes lay. And my successes aren't what I've done personally. I've gauged my successes on what how my children turn out, and to really see that my daughter, strong, independent leader. Very proud to say I got Wonder Woman on my side.
I love that.
Yeah, how many daddies can say you got Wonder Woman on your side, and she whipped her cape out.
Yeah.
Even sitting here now with doing this interview with you just to see how strong she is.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a proud daddy moment.
Beautifully said. Now, Bridget, for you, you talked about how just this experience allowed you to have more deeper conversations, being able to express your emotions more openly. How do you think that experience has now changed your relationship?
So one thing going into the show that I was concerned about, and I kind of touched on it, was just growing up, my dad was always my coach. He was the leader, sometimes his way or the highway. And I think I was just concerned about how we would be in a partnership because in The Amazing Race, it's a partnership. You have to listen to the other. So part of me was a little concerned about how that dynamic would work, but something that I was so pleasantly surprised with was like my dad just mentioned, like our ability to work together and
Yeah.
my me being able to say, what if we did it this way, and him listening to it was something I was super just like happy and proud of. And we got to spend such quality time. I don't think people watching really realize how much time you do spend with your partner.
Right.
Like a lot of quality time together. And that just kind of forced us to kind just bond as like an adult daughter and dad, and something that we haven't really done in a while, and it just something I'll cherish. So it was great.
Well, I loved watching the both of you. You know, I always root for the parent-child teams on The Amazing Race. And you know, from watching my season, I applied 9 times to get on the show, and a lot of that was with my mom. So I always have a soft spot for the teams who are parent-child. So if you could give any advice to future Amazing Race teams, especially a parent-child one, what do you think that would be?
To take your time, which sounds like totally contradicting of the whole Amazing Race experience, but I just think learning how to like sit in the moment and take a deep breath before you make any decisions is something that is just so powerful on the
Yeah,
Amazing Race. Obviously, you're always going to feel rushed and you're always going to feel on the go, but like taking those moments to just pause, so important.
love that. What would your advice be, Ernest?
Patience and being humble, and also respecting the areas that you're in and the people who you have to depend on, specifically these cab drivers. Just patience and being humble.
That's great advice. So anyone listening, they nailed it on the head there. Again, it was so great to meet the two of you. So sad your journey was cut short, but it sounds like you got a lot out of
We
this
did.
experience together. And so in that regard, that makes you winners. And thanks for sharing a little bit about your journey with me. And I wish you guys all the best. And hopefully we'll meet sometime in the real world.
So nice to meet you. Thank you
Thank you for
so
having
much.
us on.
Of
Yeah.
course. Bye, y'all. Enjoy the rest of your day.